Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and I'm a South African who has just moved to London. And here on this channel, we are going to talk about immigration, how I got here, how things are going, and what I'm learning. And I'm learning a lot all the time. But with that being said, today we are going to talk about how I actually got here. And that be starting right from the beginning, from our decision to move here to us actually landing on UK soil. And I did want to make this video because when I was researching how to get here, how to do the visa process, because I wanted to do the visa process myself, I couldn't find any videos linking to my type of visa and my partner. So of course, everyone's journey is different and how everyone will immigrate or the process or the visas that they use will be different. And this is just my visa process. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. People may ask why I left Cape Town with the stunning weather. My family lived there, everything I know is there. Well, I can tell you right off the bat that I do miss home. I miss my family incredibly. And I also miss all the comforts of home. I miss knowing the languages, how the people are, and just knowing what to get at the shop, for example. But with that being said, in the same breath, I am really enjoying being here, learning, trying to integrate. It's very fun, it's very stressful, and every day is a new day. But ultimately, the decision to move here came actually in 2018. I was in the UK with one of my best friends and one of my closest friends, and we were actually in Scotland at the time, and I knew right then and there that this is where I wanted to be one day. My friend and I, we went around Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and England. But when we were in Scotland, there was just something about it. I absolutely fell in love with this country, and that was it. That's where I wanted to be, and I just can't explain it. So when I got home a couple years later, I was speaking to my partner and I said, so is this going to be it? Are we going to make this jump? And we just decided yes, and that is just history, and we got the ball rolling. I would say in about 2020 we made the decision, but obviously things happened. We had to put it on the back burner for a little bit, and we then took the process up again in 2023. So now we're going to talk about what documents I needed, what process I went through, and what visa I'm actually on. So in the middle of March, I sat down at my parents' dining table and decided to apply for the Ancestral Visa. I knew that I was eligible to get an Ancestral Visa because my grandmother was born in the UK. So that is the route that I was going, was an Ancestral Visa route. And I just want to say that when I did the visa process, I know that a lot of people are worried to do it themselves, but you really can do it. It's really simple and it saves you a lot of money that you will need when you come this side. But if you do choose to do it through a company for ease of mind, I really do understand because it is an incredibly stressful process. And there was one point when I thought I should just do it through a company because I messed up, and we'll get into that later. So I'm now on this government website and I'm applying for the visa. So if you are successful in getting that UK Ancestral Visa, it entitles you to work in the UK for 5 years unrestricted. You may rent property, you may buy property, you may live in the country. The only restrictions are you may not vote and you may not claim any benefits. So because I applied for the Ancestral Visa, my partner was going to come with me. We did not do the spousal route because firstly, it's a lot more expensive. You have to reapply in the 2.5-year situation. So instead of getting 5 years like the Ancestral, in the middle of your residency, you'll basically have to reapply at the 2.5-year mark. The government can see that you are working, you are contributing, but we went the Ancestral and dependent route for my partner. So I'm on the Ancestral Visa, I'm the main visa holder, and my partner, he's on the dependent visa route. It's a lot cheaper. Yes, you are responsible for your dependent, but they get the same type of rights as you on the visa, so they can stay here for 5 years, they can come in and out of the country. They don't have to prove at any point that they are working or anything. They just have to make sure that you can survive in the UK for those 5 years, assuming that you are working. When you fill out the forms, you do have to pay quite a hefty amount for the visa. I think I paid around 12,000 Rand at the time. I'll put the amount up here that I paid. Obviously, this fluctuates because I did do this around a year ago almost. So prices will change, prices will increase, and it is a very expensive process. And that was just the visa amount. The NHS amount that you have to pay 5 years up front is incredibly expensive. And that was around £3,000 that we paid for the 5 years up front, and that's each. Both my partner and I pay the same amount for the visa and the same amount for the NHS. And when you are applying, you will do the application online on the government's website. And then once you get to the end of all the questions and information, you then pay for the visa, and then it'll ask you to pay for the NSH surcharge. And you basically pay around half, maybe just over half of the amount for the 5 years. But I would definitely have the full amount of money ready when you do the application, because it's only a couple of days or a couple of weeks after you first apply that the UK government then wants the rest of that money that you paid off in the application process. So make sure you have the full funds. Like I said, it's incredibly expensive, and it's definitely an investment that you have to pay to be able to get here with that NHS surcharge. So we applied in the middle of March, and then our biometrics appointment was on the 29th of March. Now, when actually doing the application, we could have got our biometrics appointment the next day, but I decided I was too chicken to do it. I needed to mentally process it. So I waited for a couple of weeks, or around a week or so after we applied, to be able to go to the biometrics appointment. Now, with the biometrics, you have only certain areas that you can go to. In Cape Town, there's only one place that you can go to for your biometrics. So when you apply in different provinces in South Africa, make sure you know where your biometrics appointment is before you apply. And speaking of having everything, these were the documents that I brought through to my biometrics appointment. So we arrived at the UK embassy or the UK biometrics place, and we arrived with the documents that we needed for our visa application. Some of these documents are exactly what you need based on the website and the UK government site. Some are extra, such as proving my partner and my legitimacy in a relationship, a whole other documents, which I'll get into now. So number one document is a valid passport. I know this sounds really silly, but you need to have a valid passport for at least 5 years, because you're going to be staying there for 5 years. So what I did was, we knew that we were going to apply in 2023. At the end of 2022, I went to Home Affairs in Cape Town and I renewed my passport, because I wanted to make sure that it was as fresh as possible and had as long life as possible, because dealing with Home Affairs in South Africa is a nightmare. And I just didn't want to deal with that process or try and reduce the amount of times I had to go to Home Affairs as possible. So I made sure my passport was as valid as possible and had as many years as possible. You do not need to have a full 10-year passport if you do not want to, but at least 5 years is really necessary. Yes, of course, you can reapply for your passport in London or wherever you're going to live. You just have to go to the embassy in whichever country you're in. Another document that I really needed based on my ancestral visa requirements was to prove that I had an ancestor who was born in the UK. That being my grandmother, it could be your grandfather. You have to prove that one grandparent at least was born in the UK. So I needed to have her original birth certificate. If you cannot find this, you would be able to maybe contact the UK. They might be able to find it and they could post it to you, but it just depends. This was not a necessary document, but I made sure that I got it because it is a necessary document at the end of your 5-year residency in the UK. So what I got was my vault copy of my birth certificate. And the reason I got the vault copy of my birth certificate was that it is the actual original birth certificate that your parents write on when they're in hospital. It has their writing on it. It's exactly what they wrote down when you were born. And the UK government does want to see that at the end of your residency to prove that you were born there. And it's just one of the many documents that they need. I haven't really researched too much into after the 5-year residency, but from some of my family that got their indefinite leave to remain, that was one of the documents that they needed. Bear in mind, it could change in 5 years, but who knows? So that's another document that I made sure that I had, just for peace of mind. What you do definitely need is also your unabridged birth certificate. And your unabridged birth certificate is where your parents' names are on the birth certificate as well, but it's usually printed out. It's not the one that they write on. So South African Home Affairs will list the name of father and mother on your birth certificate and who their child is. And it just gives details of where they were born and their surnames as well, and to link you that you're the child. And like I said earlier about contacting a company to get the documents for you or to do the whole process for you, at one point I did think about it, and I did have to contact a document retrieval company in order to get the documents for me because I made a big mistake. And when coming to my biometrics appointment, I thought I had all the documents with me. I really did. I thought I'd researched everything. But for some reason, I completely missed the fact that I needed my mom's unabridged birth certificate. I thought it was all about my grandmother. I had all of her documentation, her marriage certificate, her birth certificate, where she went to school, everything. But I forgot the point that I needed my mom's one, because how were they going to link my nan to me? How are they going to prove that this lady who I'm claiming ancestry from is my ancestor? So the reason you need your mother or father's, whoever's grandparent or parent it is, you need your parents' unabridged birth certificate to prove that your grandmother is their parent. if that makes sense. So like I said, the unabridged birth certificate links the parents' names on the birth certificate, and that's why I needed my mom's one. So make sure that you have your parents' unabridged birth certificate as well. So your grandparents' birth certificate, your parents' unabridged birth certificate, and your unabridged birth certificate. So the UK government has, like I said, documents that they specifically require, like those unabridged birth certificates and all that. However, they do recommend that if you have information, give them as much information as you can. The more the merrier, like pump as much information as you can so that they really can see that you have lineage and you're all right to get that visa. Another document that you require is a bank statement, and you need to prove that you have at least 30,000 Rand available to spend after you've paid all of that surcharge, NHS surcharge, and the visa requirements. So you need quite a lot of money to prove that you'll be able to support yourself in the UK once you get there. Another document that you need is a TB test. This is really important that you do it before your visa application process, but not too far in advance that you run out by the time you actually apply. So let me explain. We took the TB test in February of 2023, and we applied for our visa in March. So when you apply to get your TB test, this is not necessarily part of the application. You do go on the UK government website to check where specifically you have to go to get the TB test. UK government approved TB testing sites are only in specific areas in whichever province you live in, and that's really important. You cannot go to any doctor to get the TB test. It has to be at the UK government approved sites. And so when you go on the UK government site, you will see in Cape Town, you can go here, in Durban, you can go here, and you can only go there. Do not go to your doctor, do not waste the money. You have to go to those sites. And when we got to this TB testing site, we were put into a room with a whole lot of other people, and then we were called one by one into rooms where we had to then get undressed. For women, you have to take your bra off, obviously. And for men, I think you just take your tops off. You go into this room and you kind of like hug a machine. And you can still keep your gown on, it's fine. But you hug a machine and then they put this other machine against your back and you just have to not breathe for a few seconds while they take the x-ray and then you can head off and that's it. So it's very quick, it's very expensive, it's around 2,000 Rand for this and you get your certificate on the day, around an hour, maybe 3 hours, I can't remember. It was quite a while after we did it that we could go and collect our certificates. But what we did was we didn't wait the full 3 hours. We went kind of in between and our certificates were ready. So kind of go back and just test the water to see if your certificates are ready instead of waiting for so long. Our TB testing site was near Canal Walk and that's where we went for that test. But what's important about this TB test is that it only lasts 6 months. It only has 6 months validity. But what's important is that the validity is not necessary for you to have when you enter the UK. So what I mean is when you actually apply for your ancestral visa, whichever visa route you're going, it must only be valid at that point and at the point of your biometrics appointment. So at the time you apply and when you hand that document in at your biometrics appointment, it needs to be valid. It does not need to be valid when you enter the UK. I wasn't asked for mine. No one looked at mine. It's still in a file in the cupboard. It's not valid anymore, but as long as it's valid when you actually apply and at your biometrics appointment, that's all that matters. But then following those are the documents that we needed. We also added some documents that we didn't necessarily need, but we wanted to spruce up our application. And that was a letter from my family where we were staying for a couple of months. So we had a letter from them saying this is where they live, that we are staying. They had our full names, our passport numbers, and we're going to stay at their address. And because my partner was coming as my dependent, like I said, we had to prove our relationship. We had our marriage certificate and we put all of that in the documents just to prove that I'm not just bringing a stranger with me as my dependent. If you are not married, I do hear that it is a little bit more difficult. You would have to prove your relationship for every year that you are together, be that photos, Facebook posts, something like that to prove your relationship. And you do need to be together for at least 2 years if you are not married. Another document that we didn't need but I provided was my mom's and my nan's marriage certificates just to prove the change of surname for both my nan and my mom. So like I said, I just wanted to point out when I forgot my mom's unabridged birth certificate during that biometrics appointment, they don't tell you at the biometrics appointment what you're missing, if you're going to get through to the application, nothing. They don't tell you anything. They take your documents and they send it away. There's nothing there that they will tell you. They also take your fingerprints and your photo for your visa, so make sure you look nice. So I went to the biometrics appointment and they took your documents, they ship it away. A couple of days later, I got an email from the UK government or from the visa people who were looking through our application saying that they do not have my mom's unabridged birth certificate and they cannot prove my lineage in these documents that I have. And then at the bottom of the email, it says you have 10 days to send us your mom's unabridged birth certificate, or this application process will be null and void and it'll be cancelled and you lose the money that you paid for the visa. When I heard this, my heart absolutely sank. I was crying. I was like, oh, I'm going to lose all this money. I'm never going to get this document from Home Affairs in 10 days. That's never been heard of. I contacted a place called Immigration Assist and a person named Dean helped me. I cannot tell you that he was the most helpful person. He got me that document in around 4 days. Look, I don't know the legitimacy of any of this, but he got me the document in 4 days. Yes, it was a bit expensive, and I sent it through, and thankfully I was approved, and I was approved on the 24th of April, 2023. So mind you, that was a very quick application process. We applied in the middle of March, biometrics appointment on the 29th of March, and less than a month later, including that hiatus with where I was trying to find my document, we got approved in less than a month. So that was part one of the entire stress of just getting here. Let me know if you want to know about the rental stresses, the job stresses, and everything else that we had to learn along the way. So we landed in the UK around the 28th or 29th of July, 2023, and we are still learning as we go. We learn every day. I'm learning about the UK winter and heating, and it is a lot. Let me know down below if you want to hear any more. If you have any questions, please pop them down below. I can try and answer as many as I can. Like I said, I went the ancestral route. I do not know about any other visa routes, especially the spousal, which I know is very common. We did not go that route. It's very expensive and very tedious. We chose the dependent route, which was very simple, thankfully. But we are having an absolute blast, and it's a learning curve every day. So like I said, let me know if you want to hear anything down below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will definitely be posting what I'm getting up to in the UK, our travels, our experiences, and all of that fun stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.